For today's video, I kind of just felt like sitting back, talking some hockey, answering your guys' questions. So last night, I posted on the community tab, ask me some NHL related questions. There was a lot of really good ones. I picked out about 15 to go over in today's video. Obviously couldn't pick every single one, but if you guys do show a lot of love for the very first Q&A on the channel, I will make sure to do these, maybe even like once every week or once every 2 weeks if it is something that you guys really like to watch. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel and you want to see more hockey content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And now let's begin with the first question. Beginning with a question from Keegan Little, who says, if Detroit picks second overall in the 2020 draft, who do you want them to take? This was pretty easy for me. I definitely want them to take Quinton Byfield. I know after Lafreniere, there is a lot of really good players, Tim Stützle, Marco Rossi, Jamie Drysdale, Lucas Raymond, but I think Quinton Byfield is still the consensus number 2 overall pick. The pure upside that he has and the potential on what he could become at the NHL level, I think is just too much for any GM to pass up at the number 2 spot. So if Detroit does pick number 2, which I'll be pretty upset about, I really want that first overall pick, but Quinton Byfield would still be a very, very good player to get. Next up, a question from I Don't Give Tkachuk. Be sure to subscribe to his channel if you have not already. But he asks, in the next 10 years, who will be the top 10 best players in the league by then? And that is a long time from now. I think a lot of it will consist of players that aren't even currently in the NHL. Maybe players like Shane Wright, who was given exceptional status, had a great first year in the Ontario Hockey League. Another player could be Connor Bedard, who was recently given exceptional status to play in the WHL as a 15-year-old full-time next season. He was drafted with the first overall pick by the Regina Pats and looks like he's going to be an unbelievable player. So yeah, I think it will consist of a lot of guys that aren't even in the league right now, but still you will have some other guys in the NHL that are really young right now too. 10 years is a long time from now, so it is kind of hard to tell. Moving on now, this question comes from, well, you guys can see the name on the screen. Not even going to try to say it because I'm just going to mess it up. But they say, how many points do you see Alexis Lafreniere getting in his rookie season? Lafreniere comes up a lot in this video, hence why he's in the thumbnail. But I could see him getting anywhere from like 60 to 85 points. I don't want to set my expectations too high because I feel like that really sets you up to be disappointed, and it's really not fair to put such high expectations on these young players coming into the league. I feel like a lot of people definitely made that mistake with Jack Hughes and Capo Caco. But I think Alexis Lafreniere is going to be really good. He's probably one of my favorites for the Calder Trophy next season, and hopefully he can do that in a Red Wings uniform. The next question comes from Canadian Gamers, who asks, do you think Wayne Gretzky would be as good in today's NHL? On the flip side, would McDavid be the GOAT if he played when Gretzky did? Now, I'm not the biggest fan of comparing eras because you really just never know. The game is always continuing to evolve. The one thing I will say is if McDavid played in Gretzky's era with his speed, his skill on those goaltenders, I mean, we really don't know what could have happened. So it's an interesting thing to look at, but again, it is really difficult to compare different eras. Moving on now from the Surge Decay, who asks, early 2021 Calder predictions. This is definitely an interesting thing to look at. It's a good question. I said earlier in the video, Alexis Lafreniere definitely has to be one of the favorites. I mean, how could he not be? He is super hyped up. Bowen Byram is also probably going to be someone who comes in and has a really good season, in my opinion. The future of that Avalanche blue line is just super scary. Sam Girard, Ryan Graves, Cale Makar, and now Bowen Byram probably coming in next season. Another guy, Grigory Denisenko, recently signed his entry-level contract with the Panthers. I think he's going to be a beast at the NHL level, and is definitely one of my dark horse picks for the Calder next season. So those are just some of the guys off the top of my head. Moving on from Sarah B, who asks, as a Detroit fan, would you give up the first overall pick to get the second and third overall picks? This would basically mean trading with Ottawa so they could get Lafreniere, but Detroit would get second and third overall pick from Ottawa. I'll be blunt, I definitely would not do this. I think Lafreniere is a can't-miss talent. I think he's a franchise talent. And while there is potential for picks like 2 through 5 to be franchise talents as well, I still would not pass up on Alexis Lafreniere, so I don't think I would take that. The next question from Quinton M, who asks, who is the biggest surprise player to you this season? This is a good question. I feel like there was a lot of them, but off the top of my head, definitely JT Miller in Vancouver. I really liked the pickup last summer, but I didn't expect him to do what he did this season. He was arguably the best forward on that team. over guys like Horvat, Besser, and Pedersen. He was a beast for them. And another guy, definitely Brian Rust in Pittsburgh. I feel like a lot of people knew that he had more to give than what he had been showing, but I don't really think anyone expected him to play as well as he did this season. He was fantastic and definitely came up huge considering Pittsburgh had so many injuries this season. This is a long one, but I think it's really interesting to talk about. It comes from Scummy Dummy. Since you're a Wings fan and I'm sure more knowledgeable about hockey, I've always wondered, why do players like Chris Terry and Matt Pumple for the Griffins never moved to the NHL? They're damn near point per game players and are our most consistent on that team. I always assumed it was leadership for young guys, or does their gameplay just not transition to the NHL level the same? Been curious the last year or so, never paid huge attention to the AHL in the past. I think you really answered your own question in here. It just comes down to their gameplay not transitioning to the NHL level the same. Obviously, there is a huge talent gap from the AHL to the NHL as well. And if you go on the AHL's website and look at the top scorers every single season, a lot of those guys are probably some players that you would have never heard of and guys that will never get a taste of the NHL. And that's kind of just how that goes. So I thought this was a really interesting question. Moving on now, this one comes from Jesse, who says, what is, in your opinion, the best line in the NHL? There is a lot of very good lines, and this comes down to opinion, I think. But for me, when fully healthy, I think the McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog line is the best in the entire NHL. Obviously, they didn't really get to show that a lot this season because Rantanen missed a lot of time, Landeskog missed some time as well, and McKinnon was the only one of the three that stayed healthy, and he still played like a beast. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the league, and yeah, I think this line here, when healthy, is the best in the NHL, but that's just my opinion. The next question comes from Kobe James. We got a Red Wings question here. What do you think is going to happen to Howard in free agency? I really don't see him coming back to Detroit. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to retire. He's had a very long and pretty successful NHL career, and it's all been with Detroit. Maybe he doesn't want to go anywhere else. Maybe Detroit doesn't want to bring him back. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he retired. This past season was pretty bad for him. It obviously wasn't all his fault because Detroit was very bad, but he didn't look very great. Maybe a team signs him to be a backup for a cheap deal, but if I had to guess, I think honestly he might retire. Moving on to the next question. This one comes from Rush, who asks, who do you think should be on the next NHL cover? I'm a pretty big gamer. I like to get the new NHL every single year. It would be cool if they put Colby Cave on the cover to show some respect and, pay their respects, but I can't really see them doing that. So if not him, probably a guy like Artemi Panarin, Leon Draisaitl, or Nathan McKinney, just some of the big name players that had a really good year. But a lot of times they just put a random player on there, so when it comes to EA, you really just never know. Next up from the Rangers fan 849, what team is considered the Browns or the Knicks if in the NHL? This is a pretty interesting question. The Browns and Knicks are kind of considered the jokes of their respective leagues. I would probably go with the Buffalo Sabres. I feel like they just continue to disappoint every single year, especially over the past 2 seasons where they started off so promising and then just completely fell off of the cliff. Something's got to give in Buffalo. There has to be some signs of improvement here soon, or who knows what's going to happen. Next up from Haley Chow, who asks, which upcoming RFA would you most like to see the Red Wings offer sheet most likely target? Probably Mikhail Sergachev. With the exception of Moritz Seider and Filip Hronek, things are pretty thin on the blue line for Detroit. Albeit I don't see them offer sheeting anybody because we have our own RFAs to worry about in Tyler Bertuzzi and Anthony Mantha, and we got to worry about other teams potentially offer sheeting them. But if it had to happen, definitely would go with Sergachev because he'd be a beast for Detroit on the blue line, which does need a lot of help. Next up from Aiden Murray, who do you see being NHL ready out of the 2020 draft class? Now, I'm not the best when it comes to prospects. There are a lot of other really good channels that cover prospects a lot better than I do. But obviously, Alexis Lafreneire, I think he's going to play his rookie season. I would say Quentin Byfield probably does. I'd say Tim Stützle probably does as well. Not 100% sure about Jamie Drysdale or, Marco Rossi. But honestly, I think there could be, a good amount of them that play in the NHL right away, and probably more than we saw from the 2019 draft class. And now the final question of the video from Nathan, who is better, Brady or Matthew Tkachuk? I love Brady Tkachuk, a big fan of his game. He is a great player now, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. But I really think the only right answer here is Matthew Tkachuk. He showed a lot of signs this season that he could potentially turn into a superstar. I would say he is probably already the best forward on that Calgary Flames team, above Sean Monahan, above Lindholm, and obviously above Johnny Gaudreau. His overall game is fantastic. He's extremely skilled as well on top of his edgy style of play. You know, he scored a lot of insane goals this season. Tkachuk is definitely one of my favorite players to watch in the league. Matthew, that is. And yeah, I would definitely have to go with him on this one. That is going to wrap up the very first Q&A on the channel. I actually had a lot of fun doing this, and if you guys enjoyed it, you smash that like button, show your support. I'm definitely down to do more, maybe like once every week or once every 2 weeks, like I said at the beginning. Thank you to everybody who submitted questions. Obviously, I couldn't answer them all in today's video, but like I said, hopefully we can do some more in the future. And with all that being said, like I mentioned, if you guys did enjoy today's video, please make sure to go down there and drop a like on it. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel and you want to see more hockey content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with all that being said, I will see you all in the next one.